And now, let's join ace broadcaster Mamode Akugha as he takes us inside the Niger Delta.
Hello out there and welcome to the program. It's Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region. I'm your regular host, Mamode Akugha. Today's package is centered on the crisis of underdevelopment rocking the Niger Delta region and other parts of the country. We will, as usual, update you on efforts made by the federal government and its development partners to tackle the twin challenges of poverty and underdevelopment bedeviling oil-producing communities in the Niger Delta and their neighbors in the northern part of the country. We will also close in on activities of the Presidential Amnesty Program, whose coordinator, Professor Charles Dokubo, was suspended recently by President Muhammadu Buhari. How the Presidential Monitoring Committee appointed to oversee the activities of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, intends to supervise the ongoing forensic audit of the commission is next on our lineup. And moving on, we'll bring you an update on milestones achieved so far by the Hydrocarbon Pollution and Remediation Project, HYPREP, in the ongoing OGONI cleanup project. We will, in the course of the program, highlight efforts made by indigenous oil giant BELEMAOIL Producing Limited to promote sustainable development in the country as part of its corporate social responsibility. Wrapping it up on today's package is a report on women's role in the ongoing Niger Delta peace process as Nigeria joins the rest of the world to mark this year's International Day for Women. Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region, will be right back after this time out. Don't go away.
Introducing the new face of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA. We are charting the direction for a maritime and regulating the industry for a better, bigger, and more economically stable Nigeria. Evolved to serve you better. We are NIMASA. New face, rejuvenated service. NIMASA, changing the tides in your favor.
Inside the Niger Delta.
Following allegations of corruption and poor management of the Presidential Amnesty Program, President Muhammadu Buhari recently approved the suspension of Professor Charles Dokubo as coordinator of the program. This report, correspondent Chika Bodozie, examines a trend of alleged abuse of office by successive managers of the Presidential Amnesty Program.
Professor Dokubo's suspension follows the recommendation of a committee set up to probe activities of the Presidential Amnesty Program under his watch. The professor of strategic studies and former acting director of research at the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs had been accused of abuse of office by several interest groups in the Niger Delta. The suspended coordinator of the Presidential Amnesty Program was in the eye of the storm after hoodlums vandalized and looted the program's vocational training center, warehousing training kits and starter packs procured for beneficiaries of the scheme. The Kayama incident in February 2019, which cost the federal government billions of naira, was linked to Professor Dokubo, but he quickly dismissed allegations of his involvement in the incident as mischievous and unfounded. Few weeks after, in March 2019, a 6-man special investigative panel was set up to ascertain the remote and immediate causes of the incident and identify those behind the criminal act. The panel was given 7 working days to submit its report. Curiously, nothing has been heard of its findings till date. Over the years, successive coordinators of the Presidential Amnesty Program have been accused of malfeasance with none prosecuted so far. Professor Dokubo's appointment 2 years ago came with the sack of Brigadier General Paul Boro, retired, over allegations of fraud. After Boro's sack, President Buhari directed his National Security Advisor, Babagana Monguno, to investigate allegations of financial impropriety in the amnesty program from 2010 to 2015. It is interesting to note that the outcome of that investigation is still not in the public domain. In July 2018, Boro's predecessor in office, Mr. Kingsley Kuku, was invited by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, to explain his role in an alleged fraud, but he failed to honor the invitation on health grounds and has remained outside the shores of the country till date. With outcomes of previous investigations into activities of the Presidential Amnesty Office yet to be declared public, there are fears that the current investigation is just an exercise in futility. This is a scenario that gives most Niger Deltans cause for worry. By February 2014, the Presidential Amnesty Program had reportedly gulped a whopping 243 billion naira in just 5 years of its existence. While it has successfully halted constant attacks on oil platforms by armed insurgents, the program has failed to enthrone lasting peace in the Niger Delta. The tardiness characterizing the ongoing peace process in the Niger Delta is in spite of the fact that the Presidential Amnesty Program was originally conceived by the Yar'Adua administration to last a period of 5 years from 2010 to 2015. Recall that on the assumption of office in May 2015, President Buhari had attempted to phase out the amnesty program by December that year. After consultations with groups in the region, notably the Pan-Niger Delta Forum, PANDEF, Mr. President decided to carry on with the program and promised to strengthen it to achieve desired results. To this end, allocation of the Presidential Amnesty Program was increased to 55 billion naira in the 2017 budget, from a paltry 20 billion it received in 2016. With more funds at its disposal, the Amnesty Office was able to pay all ex-agitators backlog of their stipends up to the end of 2016. The gesture was said to be in line with President Buhari's new vision for the Niger Delta. With the recent turn of events in the Presidential Amnesty Program, it however appears the President's vision may not go far enough to address real issues militating against sustained peace and security in the Niger Delta if drastic measures are not taken to retool the program. As many observers of the ongoing peace process now ask, what is the guarantee that the ad hoc committee appointed to oversee activities of the amnesty program will not be tarred with same brush of corruption? Has there been any attempt to identify and deal with the conditions giving rise to alleged abuse of office by successive administrations in the Presidential Amnesty Program? Like the Niger Delta Development Commission (NDDC), the Presidential Amnesty Program is viewed as a source of easy money by some idle youths and a section of the political class in the Niger Delta. Obviously, there's an urgent need for the federal government to begin to address real factors preventing the amnesty program from achieving its aim and objectives in the Niger Delta, rather than focus on symptoms of maladministration that have plagued the system in the last 10 years.
Inside the Niger Delta.
Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Godswill Akpabio, recently inaugurated a 10-man committee set up last month to monitor the activities of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, in its bid to retool the commission's processes. Senator Akpabio, during the inauguration, urged members of the committee to work towards achieving President Buhari's vision for the NDDC and the Niger Delta. Correspondent Ekanami Ofori completes the report.
In line with its terms of reference, the Presidential Monitoring Committee led by Senator Akpabio is expected to closely monitor activities of the NDDC to midwife expected outcomes in the ongoing forensic audit of the Commission as directed by President Buhari. The Niger Delta minister during their inauguration urged his colleagues to carry out their assignment conscientiously to meet Mr. President's expectations for the NDDC and the Niger Delta region.
He wants to see a region where somebody can turn around and say, yes, there is value for money. He wants to see a region where profligacy and the cesspool of corruption is brought to an end. He wants to see a region where those who belong to the indigenes of Niger Delta will remember him for good and say, yes, indeed, it was President Buhari who came and repositioned and refocused the Niger Delta Development Commission to achieve things for them, to ensure their empowerment, to ensure they have roads to pass, to ensure they have bridges to pass, to ensure the cleanup of even their environments, to ensure that the people are empowered. So the monitoring committee, you have a lot of work to do.
The ongoing probe of the NDDC is on account of its poor service delivery in the Niger Delta, despite huge sums it has received from the federal government and oil companies to tackle several development challenges confronting communities in Nigeria's oil-rich region. In September last year, during an investigation into the state of NDDC project by the House of Representatives, it was discovered that the NDDC had abandoned about 12,000 projects with 9,000 others yet to be completed. Senator AKPABIO described the Commission's performance as unacceptable, noting that urgent steps must be taken to change the narrative in the Niger Delta.
Most of the things that were done were not things that were related to the region. People can get very busy, turning round and round and round and round, and there's a lot of motion without movement. That is what we have had in the NDDC. Please, you must be committed and you must get ready to work in order to justify the confidence reposed in you by Mr. President.
Present at the inauguration of the Presidential Monitoring Committee were members of the Interim Management Committee of the NDDC, led by its Acting Managing Director, Professor Keme Bradikumo Ponde.
We're going to give the Presidential Monitoring Committee all the necessary supports to make sure that they do the work to strengthen the NDDC and make it what it was set up to be.
President Buhari's approval of a monitoring committee to monitor activities of the NDDC is in line with provisions of Part 6, Section 21 of the Act establishing the Commission.
Inside the Niger Delta.
Are you an entrepreneur, small business owner, startup, or would you like to showcase your product and services? You are specially invited to participate at the Niger Delta Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Summit and Exhibition 2020. Feed stimulating MSME's growth beyond oil with great lineup of speakers. Date 27th to 28th March 2020. Venue Obiwale International Conference Center, Port Harcourt, River State. Time 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. daily. Participant must be from 18 to 45 years of age. The best and most innovative business enterprises in the Niger Delta will receive a grant of 1 million naira and a saloon car. This is for only exhibitors at the summit. For participation, exhibition and sponsorship, kindly call 0909-374-7268 or email us info@ndyp.org.ng. Visit our website for more information on www.ndyp.org.ng. Niger Delta Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Summit and Exhibition 2020. Igniting the next generation through expanding entrepreneurial culture in the Niger Delta region.
Norwegian ambassador to Nigeria, Jens Peter Jemprud, has commended the hydrocarbon pollution remediation project, HYPREP, on the quality of work done so far in the cleanup of polluted sites in OGONI land. Mr. Jemprud gave the commendation during a recent visit to polluted sites currently undergoing remediation at Alode in Eleme local government area of River State, where he noted that repollution activities compromises HYPREP's efforts to restore the health and integrity of the environment. Correspondent Lovely Ofigo has details.
The Norwegian envoy, during his recent tour of polluted sites in Alode, expressed satisfaction with the quality of ongoing remediation efforts and urged HYPREP to speed up completion of the first phase of the remediation exercise. Mr. Jemprud, however, frowned at persistent pollution activities, which he said was counterproductive to HYPREP's efforts to restore livelihoods in Ogoni land.
Issue of repollution makes the whole process futile. So now the work has been started on land, and of course the pipelines still constitute a danger to this. And then when the HYPREP operations and the contractors start working on the water-based pollution, then you will have more oversight of that, and also very important to both pipelines and water pollution to stop.
For his part, coordinator of HYPREP, Dr. Marvin Dekil, maintained that his team was poised to carry out the Ogoni cleanup exercise in line with international best practices. He also promised significant improvement in the next phase of the remediation exercise.
It's the beginning of better things to come. The standards that we are going to be applying in the new set of companies will be an improvement over what you have seen today, and we continue to improve as we progress from one stage of the project to the other.
Dr. Dekil, who acknowledged the support and cooperation of impacted communities since the commencement of the cleanup project, assured them that preparations were at an advanced stage to provide potable water as recommended by the United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP.
Setting up the plant, we're talking about reticulation. We're looking at the distance from the plant to the various communities and the strength of flow, so that when water is flowing, will there be need for booster stations, and what quantity, the volume of water will be required and consumed in that community. And what will be the projection, say for example, in another 5 years? What will be the likely population of those communities? So we are capturing all of this in the process, and we are at the point where we are inviting the contractors to come on, and we'll be deploying these contractors once awarded to the communities to begin to do this work. Just like remediation work too, it's going to be done in phases. You see the first phase that will bring water to a section of the community, and the subsequent phase that will capture more communities.
On allegations of financial misappropriation by HYPREP, Dr. Dekil said its structure and composition were originally designed to check cases of fraud, making it impossible for the Project Coordination Office to misuse funds allocated to HYPREP.
The composition of both the Governing Council and the Board of Trustees of HYPREP would not allow for that to happen. Who are the members of the Governing Council? We have the Minister of Environment himself, who is the chairman. We have the Minister of Finance. We have the Minister of Petroleum. We have the country chair of SPDC. We have the MD, NDDC. We have 2 OGONI representatives. We have civil society represented. We have other Niger Delta communities represented. We have River State government represented. And all these people have to agree before a policy to approve money for the PCO is reached. So it is practically impossible that you will have the chairman of SPDC in Nigeria preside over release of funds without prudent, with a clear-cut process.
On completion of the ongoing environmental remediation exercise, Dr. Dekil said Nigerians will be proud of HYPREP as it was working closely with UNEP and international oil companies to comply with highest international standards.
Inside the Niger Delta.
Groundbreaking ceremony for the agricultural mechanization scheme initiated for rural farmers across the country by indigenous oil giant BELEMAOIL Producing Limited and the Jack Rich Aid Foundation was performed recently in Sokoto by founder and president of BELEMAOIL Producing Limited, Engineer Jack Rich Jr. Engineer Jack Rich Jr., who holds the title of Serkin Uruwa Hausa, says the program was conceived to create wealth and reduce socio-political tension in the country. Correspondent Tekena Mifuri has more.
Under the Agricultural Mechanization Scheme, 1 million rural farmers across the country are to be assisted with modern tools and cash to transit to commercial farming, courtesy of BELEMAOIL Producing Limited and Jack Rich Aid Foundation. The presentation of a check of 300 million naira to beneficiaries of the scheme in Sokoto marked the commencement of its first phase, which captures 19 northern states of the country.
These peasant farmers are struggling every day, using oars and other, crude means, of trying to make ends meet. And providing a mechanized agriculture system will further enhance these communities and motivate their children to also tow the way of their parents. And for us, agriculture is key, and that's food security for our country. And also to ensure that we help to reduce the social unrest that is ravaging a lot of our communities as a result of need.
During his recent visit to Sokoto State, Engineer Jack Rich Jr. also performed groundbreaking ceremony for a hostel block project fully funded by BELEMAOIL Producing Limited at the Usman Danfodio University, Sokoto. While in Sokoto, Jack Rich Jr. and his team inspected a water project awarded by the indigenous oil giant at Reginya Shehu in the state capital. Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Saad Abubakar, and Governor Aminu Tambuwal, who endorsed all the projects funded by BELEMAOIL, lauded the initiative of its founder, Engineer Jack Rich Jr.
This gentleman had already done something great at the State University and is back doing these greater things, especially the hostel, which we believe can go a long way in helping the university to have a more secure student population.
We need more of this to further cement and strengthen the unity of this country. I've always said that Nigeria, to me, is not a mistake. It's through such efforts as being demonstrated by Mr. Jakric and others that we can make Nigeria work.
Earlier, Engineer Jakric Jr. was in KATSINA State to perform the groundbreaking ceremony for the Daura Children's Hospital. The project was conceived to check increasing rates of child and maternal mortality in Daura and its environs. Governor Bello Masari recalled that BELEMAOIL had before this time funded a massive water project in the area, while describing all its projects as impactful and life-transforming.
What you are doing, Sarkilwa Hausa, it is only God. He knows the limit of the benefits you will drive in this world and in the hereafter.
The project is a very comprehensive one because it has all the facilities for patient care and management. This is the kind of partnership and collaboration that we have always talked about, that is from the private sector, complementing efforts of government.
Few weeks back, BELEMAOIL Producing Limited witnessed a foundation-laying ceremony for the construction of an ultra-modern hostel block at the University of Port Harcourt, fully funded by the indigenous oil giant as part of its corporate social responsibility to its host communities in the Niger Delta. In line with its operational philosophy, BELEMAOIL had decided to extend its goodwill to other socio-economically vulnerable communities in northern Nigeria, with the funding of landmark projects that have touched several lives in the region.
Inside the Niger Delta.
As Nigeria joins the rest of the world to mark this year's International Women's Day, women in Nigeria's Niger Delta region have been urged to take the center stage in restoring lasting peace to the region. Coordinator of the Center for Gender and Conflict Studies at the University of Port Harcourt, Dr. Nsirim Walu, made the call in an exclusive chat with Inside the Niger Delta.
25 years after the Beijing Resolution on Women's Rights and Gender Equality was adopted, the United Nations is concerned that the level of progress made so far has been slow across the globe. Implementation of the Beijing Resolution in Nigeria, particularly the Niger Delta, falls short of the UN declaration, as the vast majority of women are still victims of political and socio-economic exclusions. Director of the Center for Conflict and Gender Studies at the University of Port Harcourt, Dr. Hioma Nsirim Walu, wants women in the Niger Delta to get more proactive in the campaign for gender equality.
I stand within the United Nations, which says each for equal. That balance is what we are looking for in every sphere of life, in the home, in the office, in the church, on the streets. That opportunity, the moment is there, you begin to see that things will begin to fall in place. So women should brace up, reorient themselves. How have you used what you have to bring about improvements in those who are around you? So those who are slightly disadvantaged, they should be encouraged to find their feet. So women help others to ascend to the top.
As part of their contribution to the peace building in the Niger Delta, Dr. Nsirim Walu calls on women to mobilize for positive change in the region.
For the Niger Delta women, we actually need to seize this opportunity, bring ourselves together, garner resources and energy to see how we can make or bring about change in a society.
This year's International Women's Day focuses on diversity as a tool to promote gender equality.
And with our report, we bring the program to a close. Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region will be back same time, same station next week. Until then, you can follow us on our social media handles showing right now on your screen. Until next week, my name is Mamode Akugha. Thank you so much for watching, and bye for now.